Introduce myself. My name is Armando Acosta. The reason I'm here talking to you today is I do product management and product planning for our Hadoop solutions. But overall, I do want to talk to you about everything we offer in data analytics today. So before we get started in the presentation, just to give you some quick context, is a lot of people don't know that Dell and EMC have been playing in the big data space for quite some time. You'll have David Hardy come in and he'll talk about our data center solutions group and the modular data center. But what a lot of people don't know is that we were actually building the first Hadoop platforms for the likes of Facebook, Google, and Yahoo through our data center solutions group. And that's actually where we got the idea to say, hey, we actually should do something around Hadoop. We started building thousands and thousands of servers for the likes of Facebook, Google, Yahoo back in 2008, 2009. And we started to ask, okay, well, what are you building these platforms for? And they told us, hey, there's this thing called Hadoop. It's going to be really big, and you should, start looking into it. And obviously, that's what we did. But to give you some context, I'm the Hadoop guy, but we'll definitely talk about data analytics today. So first, if you go to my next slide here, really just want to help you. This is a build slide, so click it a couple of times. So, the thing we always get asked is, okay, why is there this rise of data analytics? And the answer really is because there's just a lot more data out there today, and customers want to gain new insights from that data. But if you look 15 years ago, you had IT, it was very siloed. You had one application to one essentially server, one network device, one storage device, and it was very siloed, and essentially everybody had their little kingdom. What you also started to realize about 15 years ago is that most of your data looked, really alike. It was structured. It fit nicely into a roller column, into a relational management database or enterprise data warehouse, and the world was right. Well, now fast forward 15 years from then, and the world looks a lot different, right? And if you look at the way the world looks like today, IT is essentially, driving what business wants them to drive, right? Not only that, essentially business owners are asking more of IT than they did in the past. It's just not, hey, what happened 2 weeks ago? How many widgets did I sell? What was the margin on it? They want to know now is, okay, what happened an hour ago? Why did it happen, and what should I do next? And you get into the realm of not only data analytics, but prescriptive analytics and, essentially predictive analytics. What do I do next? And then not only that, if you look at, major development of apps today, it's done in the cloud. It's done for mobile devices. It's not done for a traditional IT application, right? And so that essentially adds a whole new world of difference of, how are you going to build this thing? How are you going to maintain this thing? And actually, how are you going to do data analytics, moving forward in the future? And of course, everybody wants to be agile, right? Everybody wants to be fast, quick, and essentially adapt as quickly as possible. And so, that's what we're trying to help our customers get to. Next slide, please. And so when you look at the evolution of workloads, it started out with your traditional applications, right? You had your Microsoft, your SAP. It was mostly focused on online transaction process, online analytical process, and hey, what happened a month, 2 weeks ago, a week ago? Now you have these modern applications. My favorite, of course, is Hadoop. But now you have things like NoSQL databases, right? Keep going, it's all right, we can build to it. But you have all these Hadoop, NoSQL databases, right? You have Spark, you have all these new things that allow you now to do processing of large amounts of data, but not only that in real time. And then, of course, if you look at, the apps that all of us are using today in this room, all these apps that you're using today actually have built-in data analytics to them. You don't actually know that, but, that's part of the preface of, one example, look at Vivino. What that allows you to do is you can go, essentially, you log in, you create an account, and you take a picture of a wine label, right? What you do over time is they build a profile of you on what wines you like. They look at your given area. They look at essentially users that, kind of look like you and say, hey, these are the kind of wines they like. Maybe these are the wines that you might like. And then not only that, is you start to essentially crowdsource this whole thing. You're going to build a library of millions and millions of reviews of wines that you might like or you might not like, but at least now you're able to share this and you don't have to go to the store every time. You actually have to buy the bottle of wine. You actually have to drink it and say, dang, I spent $30. I really didn't like this. I wish there was a better way. They built an app to help you with that. So we know Spotify, we know Woz, right? You look at Woz, if you live in a major city, if you live in San Francisco, you live in Chicago, Woz is your favorite friend, right? Because what it'll do is it'll find the most efficient route in any type of traffic, no matter what happened 5 minutes ago, no matter what happened 10 minutes ago, in some cases, even what happened a minute ago, right? And so when you look at these type of applications and where we're getting to, you have embedded data and analytics built into this. And this is why we're focused on it, and this is why we want to help our customers get there, because it's going to be a core at, what we continue to hear is a digital transformation, Internet of Things, Internet of Everything. Data analytics is going to be at the core of this, so our customers need to get there. Next slide, please. So the other value we get asked here, and I'm going to actually give credit to, because I want to follow what Chad did, but Matt Turek actually does this. He's done this for the last, I think, 5 to 7 years. But what he does, he goes and looks at the total landscape across data analytics and say, who's there, where are they playing, and what do they actually do? And so when you look at this, it scares you just looking at this slide in the room. Can you imagine being a customer and trying to figure out what tool did I choose for what, and how do I build my data analytics pipeline, and what tool did I use for real time, what tool do I use for batch analysis, what tool do I use for ETL processing, what tool do I use for ingest? What I get to and what I tell my customers and what they tell me is they get to essentially paralysis by analysis. They don't know what to do next. They don't know what to choose. And so the value that Dell EMC brings to the table here is, yes, we have our own unique IP around data and analytics, and yes, we're going to show you, what we have, but we want to help customers get through all this, right? We want to become a trusted advisor and a trusted consultant to help you figure out. As a customer, you shouldn't have to figure this out. What we want you to do is come to us with a business problem around data analytics, and we want to help you solve essentially how you solve that problem. Technology is going to get you there, but the technology should not be the most important thing about the solution. It should be about your business problem. It should be about your use case and how Dell EMC are going to get you there. Next slide, please. Now, the other thing, too, that I want you to understand is that we talk to a lot of customers. Like I said, we built the first Hadoop reference architecture in 2011. We're the first tier 1 vendor to do that with Cloudera. Now we also have partnerships with Hortonworks. But the other thing we want to do is we want to understand how customers move through this journey. Because when you look at data analytics and you look at big data, you just can't snap your fingers and do predictive analytics. I wish it was that easy, because I'd sell you a lot of gear and we'd both be happy, right? But the thing is that you've got to get there over time. You've got to understand how you're going to essentially process, how you're going to store, how you're going to manage that data, right? Once you get to that level and you get an operational model of that, okay, then how do you layer data analytics on top of that, right? How do you move data around across those tools? When do you do the analysis and what tool at what time? You got to think about the data gravity there, right? And so what we want to understand is, how are they maturing over time, and how can we help them get across this maturity cycle? And what we've seen is, the early stage is they typically do one use case, right? I have this one business problem. I've heard about this Hadoop thing. I want to try it out. Now let me figure out if this is actually going to work for me. And then what you see over time, say 2 to 3 years, they actually start to what we call is get into operational maturity. And so what they're really doing here is, it's not just one use case, it's a couple of different use cases. It's multiple clusters. And oh, by the way, I'm not running just one distribution. I'm running multiple distributions based on the use case. I might be running Cloudera for my risk analysis use case. I might be running Hortonworks for my active archive use case. I might be running essentially open source for my customer 360 use case. But the thing that you start to see here is that once you start to see one use case, it starts to grow over time, and now your customers start to get more mature of how they're actually going to use this technology. It's not a science project anymore. It actually becomes their core data platform and how they're going to move forward with any type of piece of data that they're going to store. And then last but not least, they want to get to essentially be the Googles, the PayPals of the world, right? Where they're doing machine learning, they're doing real-time analysis, they're doing microservices, they're spinning up resources, spinning them down based on the use case, based on the BI use case, based on the tool that the data scientist wants to use. And so what we're going to do here at Dell EMC is we're going to focus on different technologies, different open source technologies, different data analytics tools, so that we can get you through this continuum and we can actually service customers, no matter if they're at that first use case or they're out the way to say, hey, I want to do some machine learning and I want to GPUs. Hey, Dell EMC, what's your point of view on that? How can you get me there? Next slide, please. And then double click that one. And so, the story here is that you can't have one thing with big data and data analytics, because no customer is the same. Every customer has done business intelligence a certain way, Every customer has invested in different tools, and every customer has operationalized data a certain way. And so what you've got to come to the table with is a full caveat of tools to offer that customer, right? So whether it's, hey, I want to run it on the best infrastructure, great. I validated that on Dell PowerEdge servers. I validated that on Isilon shared storage. I validated that on VxRail or vBlock. Okay, I have that too as well. Or hey, I need some fast SSD storage. I have DSSD. And the whole thing is now we've validated and tested and certified that. So when you run this data analytics software, it's not a science project. It actually works. We certify it. We teach you how to, plan it, design it, build it, and then essentially operationalize it. And then last but not least, you're gonna have to integrate data, right? That's the whole thing with data analytics is you're integrating data from different data sources. So if you don't have a data integration tool, you're gonna fall flat on your face. So what we're able to do here is with a tool called Boomi. Boomi allows you to integrate data from any place. It can be app to app. It can be from cloud to private cloud. It could be from premise to off premise, whatever it might be. Boomi allows you to integrate any piece of data. And then the last piece is analytics, right? That's where you get to your models, your algorithms. That's where you get to essentially breaking down your data silos and having one single data platform. And with analytics, we have that in our Analytics Insight module that we actually just introduced to Dell EMC World. And so the message I'm really trying to help you understand here is that we're just not a point solution. We just don't deploy one single solution. We just don't give you one deployment model. We actually have the whole pyramid here, and we can actually wrap this around. One more click for me, Sarah. Around security, around services, we have those to help you out with big data. And then, hey, if we don't have the answer, guess what? We partner with the best in the industry so that we can get you the right solution. And then last but not least is, there's a lot of customers doing that, but based on our global technology index, there's still 44% of customers that don't even know where to get started. So this is, customers are challenged here. And so, this is why we want to help them out and help them get to the right place. Next slide, please. And so, the slide here, what I'm trying to showcase for you here is that, you'll hear our leader, Chad Sakic of our, Consolidated Platform Systems Group. He'll tell you, hey, there's this build to buy continuum, right? And, this is perfect for us, especially in data analytics and, taking that big data journey, is because no customer will buy one certain way, right? No customer will deploy one certain way. One customer won't do it every single way at the same time. And so for us here, we've actually got to offer solutions across this continuum in order to service those customers, in order to make them successful. So when you look at our solutions, we're not just a one-trick pony and we only do one single thing, right? No, we have big data foundation products. So if you want to build it on your own and you want to build it from, validated servers, network switches, and storage devices, great, you can do that. All the way to I want a vBlock that essentially runs, in a virtualized environment that does data analytics. Hey, we can get you there too. So if you just want to, essentially, you don't want to build it, you want to buy it, you want to plug and play, roll it in my house, and let's get going. Hey, we can do that too. But the beauty of that is, hey, this is really good when you look at it from a data analytics and a big data journey because those customers need choice, those customers need flexibility. Next slide, please. Double click it a couple times. So for the sake of time today, we only have 30 minutes, so I'm not going to get very detailed into each of these solutions. But the really message I want to get across to you here is that no matter how the customer is deploying it, we can do it in a buy option where it's all built together, everything's converged, server, network, and storage. It already has your distribution on top of it, and it's ready to plug and play. We can do that with our big data systems around VxRail, vBlock, VxRack Flex. You look at big data foundations, this is where we can give you the pieces to, essentially build on your own. Here's a certified server, here's a certified switch, and hey, you build it the way you want it. And then last but not least, we have what we call big data solutions, and these are certified architectures end to end. So essentially, it's not an appliance, it's kind of in between, but hey, we'll give you a certified architecture, we'll give you the architecture document, the deployment guide, and tell you this is exactly how you should build this thing, and hey, you can take it from us and save yourself time, money, and effort because you don't have to figure that all on your own.
So how do you guys, I can imagine with partners and things what you do, but if you're leading the sales cycle on on one of these deals, do you guys lead with, actually I should say, do you guys by default package or attempt to package services or lead with services? Because we see a lot of big data solutions from, different vendors, quite frankly, where a person has bought, or, companies bought, multiple millions of dollars of good product, quite frankly, and somebody has installed, Hadoop, and it's just kind of sat there for months now because nobody can really figure it out.
Right.
Because you need data scientists, you need people who actually know what they're doing, not an IT guy who can install a database.
Right.
So I guess my question is, do you guys try and bundle that in? Do you guys have a strategy around that besides just here's the hardware?
Yeah, I mean, so, if you want us to provide an end-to-end solution from hardware, software, and services, we can definitely do that. We definitely want to help you get there if you don't have the expertise. But we actually do both. So, we offer deployment services if that's a piece you need help on. We offer consultancy service through our EMC, big data consultancy arm, where we can actually come in and sit there for a whole month before we install anything and do a big data workshop and say, okay, is this really right for you? Because a lot of times, we don't want you to do it the way you just described it, right? Hey, let's build it and hopefully they will come. No, that's not the right way to do big data, right? What we always say is, start with the business problem and start with the use case, and then we'll build it from there. And so we offer both. We also, if you've already deployed Hadoop and you don't think you're getting the optimal performance, we also have health checks, right? And say, hey, you've installed this 2 years ago and now you're running 5 use cases on this cluster instead of now 1. That's definitely going to change the way you run this thing and you operationalize it. So let us come in and make sure it's running to its optimal performance. So we can do it either way. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Because, it's just like I said, I see a lot of this stuff, and people even come out like, SAP HANA and all this stuff, and just it sits there. Yeah. They just don't do it right, so.
Yeah, no, we don't want customers to get there, but yeah, we've also seen that as well. Yes, sir.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. And the solutions that you might be recommending, are they all on-prem? Are they hybrid?
So right now what we have is we mostly are on-prem. We do have some hybrid and some stuff we can run the cloud around our Isilon Elastic Cloud storage, ECS. But right now we do see most big data implementations on premise. And the reason why is when you look at storing all different types of data in one single data platform, whether it's finance data, HR data, customer data, you're going to want to make sure that's really secure. And then, of course, data movement's always a huge thing with data analytics, right?
Only if you bring it out.
Yeah, right. I mean, so,
For now.
and I'm not knocking cloud by any means because I do think cloud has a place in big data. Cloud is really good for essentially if you're doing a POC, you have this transient workloads that, hey, you just don't run all the time. So why the hell would I have them on my Hadoop cluster eating up resources and space when I'm not going to use that piece of data? So, hey, you can do that in the cloud. And then test and development, right? With test dev, you're always building up clusters, building them down, spinning up. Do that in the cloud because it's not fun recabling servers. Hey, this guy wants 10 nodes. Oh, great. This guy wants 20 nodes. Oh, great. This guy wants 40 nodes. So he just broke my network setup for this one rack because now I've got to take it to 2 racks. And oh gosh, he wants this many failure domains. So that type of stuff, it's much easier to do in, the cloud-like environment where you can easily spin up, spin down. So I see that. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did.
Okay. Yes, sir.
So my question is, let me set the stage. So
Okay.
Conversation with one of the EMC European CTOs probably 5 years ago. They were talking about how they're using, at the time, they're using customer-centric consulting to help out. In this case, it was offshore windmills in the North Sea, where they were trying to figure out bearing failures, which these things are way out in the middle of the giant angry ocean. And
The original IoT, right?
yeah, big giant things.
Yeah.
And the CTO office in EMC Europe worked with, and I won't name the customer, I don't know if it's public, to use their big data analytics platforms to do analysis of the vibrations to see when the bearings were failing. Now, I found that terribly interesting, and there's a great use of analytics and how it tied into the whole product story.
Right.
Seems like you're smack dab in the middle. What is the most kind of coolest use case where you've seen the consulting services, your channel, your partner, all of them come together to solve a problem that leveraged all the things you're talking about here?
Yeah, no, great question. And so I'll give you one example that I was involved in. But It was essentially a telco provider trying to figure out if their wireless service was actually meeting the needs of their customers.
Okay.
And so this is one thing, that I found out of this case study with this customer, but essentially it takes $4 to $1 more to go recapture a new customer than it is to maintain that customer, okay? And so what was happening, what they were seeing at a regional level at a certain, state is that, hey, for some reason, there's a higher propensity of customers that are leaving in this geographic region, and we want to figure out why, because guess what? We don't want to go spend 4x of dollars to recapture them. And so what we were actually able to do was we were able to understand actually how customers were actually using that device. And so what we started to do is we actually started to track logs from people's essentially mobile devices in that given area and really try to understand, okay, what was going on. Because here's the deal is when you're a telco company and you do wireless support, you put towers where you think people are most, the most population is, right? I mean, that's just the basic thing you do. But what happens when a given population changes dynamically over 1 to 2 to 3 years? You don't put wireless towers up every 1 year because that's just going to be really, really expensive, right? And so what they wanted to understand, okay, well, what was happening in this given region? So what we were able to do by just essentially analyzing the log devices, we started to understand for a given population in this given area, they'd had grown their wireless tower coverage. And so the reason these people were leaving is because it wasn't that they were mad about their billing. It wasn't that they were mad about their customer service. They were dropping because they were dropping calls. Your basic service does not run in this given area. And so this is why you're losing customers. And so by analyzing all these logs, by talking to customer call records, and essentially merging all this data together, we were actually able to build a propensity model to tell you that in this given area, based on your cell phone coverage, your people are going to leave. Anybody that's a 10 is probably going to leave within the next month. And what they started to see is all these people with 10s, call those guys right now and tell them what we're doing to try to fix their problem. Okay, those guys that are 8 and 6, send them an email telling them that, hey, we understand your service hasn't been great, but let me tell you what we're doing to help you with this service, right? And those that are 4 to 5, hey, we understand you're still happy with your service, but if you do run into any problems, please call this customer service line because we want to be able to help improve and make sure that you don't get to a 10. And by able to do that, we were able to reduce their customer churn loss by 30%. So, sorry,
30%.
Yeah.
So, which customer churn is the ultimate customer satisfaction score.
Right.
How did that affect, I'm assuming internally used customer satisfaction scores, how did that affect the customer satisfaction and perspective of the Dell EMC family?
So we knew they were happy as far as, what we had done for them, but as far as, how much happier they'd give us or a net promoter score, we didn't get to that level. But, what we do know is it solved their problem and they were happy and it saved them, a ton of money.
That sounds really, really cool.
Yeah, and that's just one example, right? I mean, I've got a couple examples here around Omnio. Omnio, they're a Siemens company. They do supply chain management in the cloud, right? Well, what they were doing was they were running into essentially scale issues, and customers are saying, hey, I want to know more about my supply chain, so I need to send you 10,000 more records. They were saying, stop, you can't send me 10,000 more records because first of all, I don't have a way to ingest these. And second of all, I don't have a place to put these so that you can actually analyze them, right? And so what we were able to do is they did a max shift of an enterprise data warehouse environment to essentially having Hadoop, essentially the place where they land all that data, they do the ingestion, and then they just layer data analytics on top of that. And by doing it that way in their supply chain management software, they're actually able to save their customers $25 million in the first year.
Damn.
So,
wow.
I would say that the reason that's the reason that light bulbs pop up with customers. They say, "Wow, it can bring me the savings." But here's the deal: is it's not easy to get there. I wish I could tell you I've got the perfect answer for you, and here's the way you do it every single time. No, it takes time and effort to get there. It takes you time and effort to train your people to get the right skill set, to operationalize it, to understand why you're getting there. But once you do get there, it's pretty eye-opening of what it can deliver as far as savings, operational efficiency, or to just deliver some new insight that you've never had before because you just never had the capacity, the processing power, or essentially the tool to help you get there. Now you have that with the tools out there in data analytics today.
Thanks for sharing.
Does that make sense?
Those are really meaningful More meaningful than not saying that your presentation.
Yeah, no, that's all right.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's why do we do this?
All right.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, thank you.
Yeah, no, and I mean, when you look at, customer 360 is what we call it. That's the number one use case. And here's the reason why. It's because I don't care what vertical market you're in, you always want to know more about your customers, right? And if you know more about your customers than your competition does, more than likely you're going to either sell them more, you're going to essentially develop a new service that's never been out there before, or understand if they really hate your product and do something about it quickly before, your stock tanks, 1 to 2 years down the road because you just didn't know, right? Yeah. These are the things that can deliver. 5 minutes? Okay, let's just, I'm going to, for the sake of time, let's just go through a couple of these different solutions. But the thing I want to help you understand is what we simplify specifically with Hadoop is that a lot of customers are spilling all their front-end work and all their time just trying to build a Hadoop cluster. And it's a necessity that you have to have, but that's not where the value's at. The value is in your data and in your use case. And so what we try to do with these Dell EMC ready bundles is simplify all that front-end work, right? So, one specific customer example, they came to us 2 years ago. They're one of the biggest, credit or rating agency firms out there today. They said they spent essentially 7 months building their first Hadoop cluster before they even got a piece of data on it. And so what you say there, that's completely wrong, right? And so the reason they came to us is they said, man, y'all have this architecture document. Y'all been doing it since 2011. Wow, you give us 50 pages of telling us how to build this without us having to figure it out on our own. We're going to do it your way because it simplifies our life. I don't have to test 3 different server configurations. I don't have to go test 3 different network switches, okay? I don't understand what firmware or BIOS settings. I don't have to understand which OS settings to tweak in my Red Hat so that I get the best performance. Dell, you've done all that for me. EMC, you've done that all for me. So I'm going to build it your way because now that allows me to build this cluster really quickly. And oh, by the way, now I can get to my use case and now I can get to my piece of data where that's the value. And that's where I'm going to show my organization that we need to invest more in this. And so what I'm showing you here is we have solutions based on, what we call direct attached storage. So I'm going to build Hadoop in a powered server and I'm going to have many nodes and I'm going to scale it that way. We can deliver it that way for you. We also have the next slide is around Isilon, so shared storage. That's an EMC heritage product. Well, we have some customers, believe it or not, that say, hey, I have a petabyte of data that I want to analyze, but it's already on essentially Isilon storage. I don't want to go move that petabyte to direct attached storage and put it across a whole bunch of servers because I don't want to move 1 petabyte of data. And so what we say is, oh, great, we have this Isilon offering. We have these X410. It was built specifically for big data. Now you just add this array to your array that you have today, and now you can do data analytics in place, and now you don't have to move all that data around. Now we have a shared storage option. I know a whole bunch of y'all are virtualization guys in the room, right? Hey, you have a virtualized environment. I don't want to go back to bare metal because, I decided I'm not going to do my operation that way 4 or 5 years ago, and I want to do Hadoop. Well, guess what? Then, hey, we can do Hadoop on top of VxRail. We can do it on top of vBlocks. Whatever you might want to do it and you're virtualized, we can build it on top of a virtualized environment. And then last but not least, we have a new device here. It's called the DSSD. And what this is actually direct attached, PCI attached, all flash storage that now enables you to do essentially real-time use cases in Hadoop. So one example is, within Hadoop, you have a NoSQL database called HBase. HBase is built off of Google's Bigtable. Well, when Google built Bigtable, it was built to essentially house millions and millions and millions of rows of data. It wasn't specifically built for speed, right? And so what you have to do in order to speed HBase up is that you actually have to throw fast gear at it so that you can essentially get your increase of performance. And so what we did with the EMC DSSD is say, hey, if you have this HBase use case and you want to take your query response time down from 20 to 30 minutes down to several minutes or even seconds, we've got this thing for you. Now we can help you out with that use case. But the beauty of this whole thing here is that I'm not throwing one single thing at you like my competitors are. I'm giving you choice. I'm giving you flexibility. You can do it in DAS. You can do it in shared storage. You can do it virtualized. Or hey, if you want something that's fast in real time, we can do direct attach all flash storage, and we can build it that way for you too. And so I'm talking about Hadoop here. I know I only got a couple minutes left, but also know that we do MongoDB. We also do work with Splunk as well. If you know Splunk, they've been around a long time. You know, they're doing a lot of cool stuff around machine learning. We do stuff around Splunk and also MongoDB, so it's just not Hadoop for us. So just be aware of that. And then we have our pivotal brothering. We have Greenplum, massively parallel database built on scale out. We can also bring that into the, essentially into, a customer discussion if they need that as well.